In this video, we're going to continue working on the wall section. We have added some notes about the wall assembly and the floor above. And at this point, we'll begin working on this floor and the foundation wall. And before we do much more work to the foundation wall, we're going to make a change to this wall type. It's currently a 12-inch concrete wall, and I'm going to click on edit type here, and we're going to add some things to this structure. At the moment, all there is in this wall assembly is a foot thick concrete wall. We're going to insert some more layers. I'm going to move this down. I'm going to add 3 layers. The bottom one is going to be a finish layer. This is going to be, what we're adding is a 2x4 wall on the interior side of that foundation wall. And we'll be adding some insulation. So imagine this is a finished basement. That's the purpose of what we're doing here. Okay, wood. Up wood here for this part. Like there is. Let me check and see what that should be called. I'm going to temporarily say okay here. Oops, we'll need to make some changes. So this one is going, so what we're going to have here is a 1/2 inch of a gap between the foundation wall and a stud wall layer. I'm going to change these thicknesses right now. 3.5 inches. This will be again a 2x4. And let's see if it accepts that for the time being. Okay, so yes, now we have layer of drywall. We have a space that we can put a 2x4 stud wall in, and then we have a little gap between it. Now you can see that, like, when I added this additional thickness to the wall, it sort of cut the slab back, and what we want to do is revise that so it comes back over to meet the foundation wall. So I am going to edit the boundary of that, and to do that I'll go to level 0. Okay, I'm going to change my detail level to fine so I can see a little bit more information here. And I'm going to start to move my slab. I'm using the arrow keys to make these adjustments. And we'll take a look at it in the detail and see if it is where it needs to be. Okay, I'm going to hit the check mark and let's go back to the wall section. All right, so I probably could use the alignment tool to get it a little bit closer to where it needs to be here. So let's try that one more time. So before I do that, this here is the south wall. So I want to pay particular attention to the relationship of the slab to the south wall. It's this one right here. See if I can click on it. don't know that I can use the align tool in this case. Does not seem to be the case. I think what I'm going to do is I'm back in the wall section. I'm just going to measure this 1 1/4. All right, and edit the boundary. Go back to level 0. And then I'm going to try to move it that specific dimension. And hit the check mark. Go back to the wall section, and I think we're in better shape now. Okay. All right, back in the wall section, I am going to click on one of these, and I'm going to go to modify, and I'm going to try to join the two. There we go. What we want is for this stud wall to sit on top of the slab. And for some reason, my foundation has shifted here. We need to move that back so that it centers on the foundation wall. I think that may have shifted when I did the, when I added the additional wall assembly here. So we're going to need to make that adjustment. So how do you reset it so it centers on the foundation wall? So I've measured here the midpoint to the midpoint, 2 5/16 of an inch. And the setting that controls this is called eccentricity. So I've selected the footing, and I'm going to put in here 2 5/16 of an inch and apply that. Oops, what happened there? 2 5/16 and apply. There we go. So now you can see it's recentered itself on the wall. Now, of course, this needs to be changed in all of the walls that is affected. So I'm going to go to section, this is section number 1. This one has been repaired, but this one probably still needs to be, and I'll have to go to the other section too. So 2 5/16 of an inch. And there we go. And section 1, or the longitudinal section, either one. I'm going to shift this over. So, I mean, there are instances where you may want to offset a footing below a foundation wall, and that is the reason for this particular setting. Okay, going back to the wall section, everything is sort of coming together. We have a few revisions that we're going to need to make. This is the drywall of the floor above, or the gypsum wallboard of the floor above, and we wouldn't have this gap. What would happen is this would go up and join in here. So we're going to need to do some repairs graphically there. To begin this, I am going to go to the annotate ribbon, and I'm going to create a masking region. And I'm going to draw a rectangle that covers some of that. I've got invisible lines here, and okay, and now I'll need to sort of replace some of the things that I've erased, but this is a kind of a starting point for this work. I'm going to pull this masking region down just a little bit. All right, now I will have to replace some of the line work that's in here, but that's okay. I need a 2x4, and the way to bring that in, as you have done in the past, is to go to Load Autodesk Family, and we're going to type in lumber, nominal cut lumber section is what I want to load. And this is going to be our standard 2x4. Okay, so now when I go to annotate and bring in a component, I can look for a 2x4. There it is. Click here. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to rotate this member so, and move it into place. So it's going to go right here. Should align with my drywall or my gypsum wallboard. So I'll have to add a few extra lines in here to kind of complete the picture. Going to annotate detail line. I will use my thin medium line weight. And connect some of these lines so they're graphically making sense. The foundation wall should come over here. This is, as I mentioned, a gap that we're going to have. You wouldn't want to put the stud wall directly on the foundation. And I'm going to need to make a copy of that 2x4 down at the bottom of the wall. One of the reasons that I'm adding this wall is so that I can get some extra insulation. So I'll go ahead and add this, and this is the default thickness, so I don't need to make any thickness changes to it. We have a little bit of a gap here where there's no insulation, and so I can add a small piece of insulation horizontally, so it just kind of gets stuffed into space. Again, the idea is just to kind of make sure that we have a continuous insulation barrier. So I'll just move this down a little bit. Extend it out a little bit longer. Okay, and we're about ready to begin adding some more text annotations. So when we added the siding, we connected it to the wall assembly above. And what's happening here is we have this sill plate, and the sheathing is sort of terminating directly at that kind of intersection of sill plate to foundation wall. It really would be best to pull these layers down below the top of the foundation wall. So I'm going to kind of use some masking regions and some line work to sort of extend that and complete the detail a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to region, masking region, and I am going to cover, I'll use a rectangle, and I'm going to cover this kind of base condition here, hit the check mark. Now I might need to kind of stretch this down a little bit, but for the moment, we're going to use this to conceal the existing line so that we can kind of work with it a little bit more. For the sheathing, I'm going to bring it down an extra inch and then pull it over this line. I'll extend it so I don't have that gap anymore. So I'm really just kind of completing this detail a little bit. And also, you know, the siding profile has this little kind of extension down here and there's nothing behind it. It probably would be better to develop some kind of trim detail at the bottom to give a little bit more backing to that. So I'll use some detail lines to sort of complete this. And, you know, the idea is to kind of bring it down to the same level here. And again, just to kind of complete this detail a little bit. It's so small that it won't read very much in the detail. So, and we'll also have like an insect screen that happens at the bottom of this. And I'll use my thin line for that so it doesn't compete with the other lines. Okay, so at least we have a little bit more closure to that joint between the foundation wall and the sill plate.